Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the October meeting of the Safety Committee. Do we have any public speakers, Mr. Mayor?
No, sir, we do not.
Could I have a motion to approve the minutes of last meeting? Second, any comments? All in favor? Aye. Mr. Mayor, report of the Chief Safety Officer.
Good morning. We have not met as a safety committee for a while, so there is a little bit to report on some activities that have been underway. I will say that first that we do have kind of an ambitious agenda despite our attempts to even pare it down for this meeting. I think we could be a little bit time challenged, so I'll just ask everyone to be cognizant of that as we move through our morning. So as I mentioned, there have been some activities to report since we met before. I want to talk a little bit about a developing approach to managing safety at the MTA. And so what I want to speak about for a few minutes is safety management systems, or SMS. I wanted to try to tell you a little bit about what it is and about how we're going to move forward under SMS at the MTA. I guess I should say, first of all, the second S there trips people up, the word systems. It makes it sound like SMS is something that you go to a store and buy off the shelf and then implement as a safety program, and that's not accurate at all. SMS is really just the management of safety as a business process. And by that I mean that, like any other business process, if you want to maximize something or improve on something, you need to set goals, targets, and measure it and ensure that it's moving in the direction that you want to see it move. So SMS is really just safety management, or the management of safety as a business process. That said, I probably won't get away without defining it a little bit more formally. So more formally, SMS is the top-down, organization-wide, data-driven approach to managing safety risk and assuring the effectiveness of safety mitigations. So essentially, SMS provides a strategy through which an organization can identify best practices from a safety perspective and share those throughout an organization, or in our case, across agencies. SMS will eventually be required by regulation, I believe, from the Department of Transportation. It's already required for airlines, and for the most part, the airlines are in compliance. The FTA, the Federal Transit Administration, has indicated that it'll publish a notice of proposed rulemaking fairly soon to require SMS for transit properties, and I suspect that the FRA will also fall in line. So our desire is to get out in front of this and be a leader in our industry. To lead and develop SMS at the MTA ahead of regulatory requirements will mean that we will need to gain a little comfort with change, and we will need to take a risk or two along the way. In other words, not everything we do will be exactly perfect right out of the box. It'll take a little tweaking and adjusting to get it right. So when that happens, I'm going to ask that you view that not as failure, but as a sign of continual improvement, which is really a cornerstone of SMS. So in a very real sense, safety is not something that an organization achieves on a particular day. It's really the journey that creates safety. The MTA is a big agency, actually a big collection of agencies, so this journey will not be quick, but with your support, we can build something, build an SMS that works well for us here. I'll ask you also to remember that SMS is not really something you have, it's really something you do. To further describe SMS just a little bit, I hope the board members can see it, but it is in your board books and on director's desk. SMS is really, if I tell you that SMS is something you do rather than something you have, it's reasonable to ask, well, what does it look like when you're doing it? And an SMS, when you're doing it, is defined by 4 pillars. This is really the common definition that's coming out of the Department of Transportation, so it's what we can expect to see eventually in rules. We have, of course, been doing safety activities that correspond to each of these pillars already across all of our agencies, so adopting SMS will hardly be revolutionary change at the MTA, but consciously thinking about our safety activities as falling into one or more of these buckets will help us advance SMS thinking here. So a brief word about each of the pillars. It's important that SMS flows from the top. All of us around this big table represent the top, from the chairman and CEO, the board members, the agency presidents, the chief safety officers, and the executive teams of each of the agencies. Because safety flows from the top and SMS is led from the top, I just really felt it was important to talk with you about it today. It's something we've had a variety of conversations about over the last several months, and it was time to bring you guys into the conversation. That first pillar also includes safety policy, so I'll mention that we are working on an all-agency safety policy that we hope to be advancing shortly. The middle pillars there, safety, risk management, and safety assurance, have been around a long time in our industry as system safety, and obviously they are a core of SMS and remain critically important to the success of SMS and the success of safety as we identify risk and create mitigations to control them and continually drive safety improvement. And finally, that last pillar, we promote safety through communications and training and related activities so everyone knows how to be safe and just as importantly knows that safety is important to all of us here at the top of the organization. So the next question might be, so how would we build and implement SMS at the MTA? Well, if we didn't already have mature and fairly well-performing safety programs, I would probably be sitting here and telling you that we need to conduct a detailed, complex gap analysis and create a complicated step-by-step implementation plan. But that's really not where we sit, so I don't really think that's the appropriate starting point for the MTA. I think that it's appropriate for us to really plunge right in and begin to conduct some activities that are directly identifiable with the 4 pillars of SMS. So I'll close out by telling you about a couple of activities that are already underway that are being initiated, with SMS in mind. So just like we partnered with Operation Lifesaver to ensure best practices in grade crossing safety, we are leveraging our existing membership in the National Safety Council to help us look for some best practices at implementing SMS. So just a word about the National Safety Council. If you're not familiar with that organization, it's a 100-year-old nonprofit organization headquartered just outside of Chicago that got its start as really an industrial safety organization. But its mission has evolved a great deal, and today its motto is making our world safer. So they look to promote safety in all aspects of human endeavor, really. And they call implementing SMS the journey to safety excellence, and that's really the journey that we are on. So we asked the National Safety Council to facilitate a workshop for us that was held in this room on September 22nd, and the topic of the workshop was developing safety goals and metrics that will really form the cornerstone of our SMS program. We reviewed SMS principles in greater detail and the importance of goals and metrics to supporting that framework. Because safety is not something that's just simply done in safety departments, it's something that's done across organizations, and it flows from the top. The chairman and CEO made some opening remarks at the workshop. The agency president spent the entire day with us, as did the chief safety officers and a cross-section of operating executives from around the MTA. So one of the results from the workshop is that agencies are now working to identify safety goal statements. We'll kind of use these as mini mission statements to select important metrics, leading indicators later in the year. So it's important for me to warn you that these new metrics will not be cast in stone. They'll represent what we believe is the most important thing for high-level focus, senior-level focus, and that focus will likely change over time, and that's the continuous improvement that I mentioned a moment ago. Our plan is to start reporting these metrics to you in 2016. SMS will, of course, be concerned with all safety risk, but it's particularly important that we ensure focus on the prevention of major events. That doesn't mean that we'll stop focusing on how many slips, trips, and falls have occurred lately, but counting slips, trips, and falls doesn't really have to do much with preventing a major accident. In fact, counting something that happened in the past is really reporting out a lagging indicator, and the focus of SMS is prevention. So for prevention, we really need to be paying attention to leading indicators. We need to be counting those activities that we do every day across our agencies to prevent unwanted future events. So I don't certainly want to be misunderstood. It's not that single injury events are unimportant, but in fact, every injury is important. But it's also critically important that we pay attention to the prevention of major accidents, such as, say, a mainline derailment or a major bus collision. So we ask for your help in maintaining that appropriate focus as we move forward. We'll begin to focus on leading indicators, and we'll periodically adjust our metrics. So that means we'll begin to report to you a little bit less frequently on some metrics you're used to seeing every month, and we'll be introducing you to new metrics very soon. So we ask for your support as we move forward with those efforts. And finally, another initiative that I wanted to mention that several of us are particularly excited about is that we have subscribed all of the agency's employees to a magazine, a 24-page quarterly magazine, very high-quality publication that comes out, I just said quarterly. Board members will get a copy as well. It really focuses, this magazine will be mailed to employees' homes. It focuses on those places where employees are most likely to be injured, and that's really outside the workplace. Our workplaces are controlled by very strict rules and regulations. That's not at all the case in our homes and in places where we play and vacation. So this magazine will provide an opportunity to demonstrate for each employee and each employee's family that safety is important and that safety begins at the top. And in fact, the first issue that we'll start mailing out in early November will include an inside front cover safety message from Chairman Prendergast to all of the MTA families, employees, and their families. This will allow, push the space button. Okay. This will allow us to really do our own part to make our world safer. So that's what I wanted to report to you this morning, and take any questions if you have them.
I think it's important that we keep the focus on safety. When I came to the New York City Transit in January of 1982, at that time the going way in terms of new innovative development and safety was system safety. But now that's 30 years removed. We want to be on the forefront, as we were in system safety with SMS, and lead the industry. There are a number of times that federal agencies will come to see what one or a number of our agencies are doing, and they use that as a barometer in terms of what other agencies in public transportation should be doing. So we'll continue that effort. Want to talk about the work plan? Any questions? Neil?
Mr. Chairman, two quick questions. One, can you just give a little more definition on what top-down means in the SMS definition? And then secondly, can you just give us a sense of the date we should be expecting to discuss those metrics? We did have one go-around on the metrics in our old home when it was a draft, and so just be interested to know when those will be introduced. Thank you.
I guess maybe I'll try to take your second question first. The way we're really seeing this is not so much as an extension of that metrics effort that took place several months ago, but really as starting afresh, really thinking through SMS principles and leading indicators, maybe more than we were, more than I was a few months ago. So the anticipation is that we'll have more to say on metrics when we meet, perhaps even just in a few weeks, because the next safety committee meeting is on November 18th. And very early in the new year, you'll start to see new metrics. And I suspect since we will have done a great deal of behind-the-scenes work thinking about why are these the most important things for the board to be focusing on, we'll probably want to make a series of mini presentations in the early part of next year to kind of make sure it's clear to you why we think those are important for you to be focused on. And your first question was top-down with respect to SMS. A guiding principle of SMS is accountability for safety. And the way that most SMSs, and certainly the way that the Department of Transportation is standardizing on SMS, they see the role of an accountable executive. That accountable executive is the head of the organization. In this case, for the MTA at large, it would be the chairman. And for each of the agencies that operate fairly independently of MTA headquarters, it would, of course, be the agency presidents. So the MTA is unique in that respect, that we might have more than one accountable executive. That's not something that's usually contemplated in SMS. But the key principle is that the ownership of safety and the importance of safety lies with the accountable executive. And although that executive can delegate responsibilities for carrying out a safety program, that accountability is not something that can be delegated. So it's important to show that commitment at the top.
No further comments and questions work plan? David?
There are no changes to the work plan. We just went ahead and included it in today's book. There are no changes to the work plan, but I'd note that as we really change the focus to SMS, we will probably want to make some significant changes in next year's work plan.
And to that point, I mean, we're 2 months away from next year, so any efforts that you apply toward what you think we need to address next year, share them with David so that we can finalize the work plan for 16. Now move on to the other agenda items.
A word of introduction about the other agenda items. At the first safety committee meeting that I attended last year at our old home, I asked for any input from the committee members on topics that you'd like to see addressed. And Mr. Merdler suggested labor management initiatives, and Mr. Greenberg, contractor safety oversight. So that's sort of the heart of our agenda today for the rest of our time. And what we did is we asked each of the agencies to pick one or two activities with respect to these topics that they wanted to showcase. So this is not meant to be a census of everything the agencies do on these important topics. This is just really meant to give you a flavor of looking out across the MTA, how we partner with labor to bring about and ensure safety, and what we do to make sure that our contractors have our safety values too. So with that, we can move forward.
So our first presenter will be Cheryl Kennedy, speaking about New York City Transit activities.
Okay, good morning. I will be giving you an overview of two of New York City Transit's labor management safety initiatives. The first initiative that I'd like to talk about is the New York City Transit Transport Workers Union Track Safety Task Force. The Joint Labor Management Track Safety Task Force was established in 2007 so that we could work together to enhance the safety of our employees while working on the right-of-way. The task force is chaired by System Safety. It consists of 3 subway managers, 3 TWU members, and also 2 System Safety members. The task force initially conducted a comprehensive study of track safety and made numerous recommendations which led to improvements in communications, flagging rules, job planning, and training. They continue to meet regularly to address flagging as well as work procedures. They also evaluate near-miss close call incidents, common findings from the Joint Labor Management Track Safety Audit Team, and new issues that arise as operations and equipment change. The next initiative that I'd like to talk about is the TWU Management Joint Audit Program. The Office of System Safety, together with the Transport Workers Union, conducts routine joint audits of work along the right-of-way. This effort began in 2007, and the teams average over 300 audits per year. The teams assess compliance with rules and procedures. They identify deficiencies in equipment and training, and they also take a look at items such as flagging rules, third rail safety, overall job setup, housekeeping, job safety briefings, and personal protective equipment. Any problems that are found are corrected right on the site. Detailed weekly reports are also provided, and those are provided to the New York City Transit President, and the TWU President and the appropriate departments also get a copy of those reports on a weekly basis. System Safety also analyzes the findings from audits to identify trends and common deficiencies that we can identify corrective actions to correct. So that completes our report.
Any comments or questions on Cheryl's report? Okay.
And Steve Heidel from New York City Bus will speak about the Bus Operator Action Committee.
Good morning, everybody. Department of Buses is going to present our Bus Operator Action Committee. This is a joint labor management initiative with the TWU Local 100. It's chaired jointly by the safety officer, chief safety officer from Department of Buses, along with the designee of the TWU president. In this particular case, it's Frank Austin, who's the division chair for MAPSTO up in the Bronx. But it's a joint labor management initiative that enables operators who are on the committee to present their safety concerns and recommendations to management and to obtain a better understanding of the concepts and policies and actions which are being pursued on a regular basis by Department of Buses. The BOAC committee was created in 2002 in response to a serious assault on a bus operator, which essentially a customer attacked a bus operator with a knife. In that particular case, the operator defended himself and turned a knife on the assailant, and the assailant was killed. But that created a large, hue and cry for some action to safeguard the bus operators, and the Bus Operator Action Committee was formed as a result of that. Initially, BOAC worked collaboratively with management to develop conflict avoidance training, which was delivered on multiple occasions to the entire workforce and is currently incorporated into our new operator training program. So every new operator coming through induction training gets this conflict avoidance training. They also worked with management on developing assault mitigation programs, which included identifying procedures to clarify and improve reporting procedures to assure that assault crimes were appropriately being reported and tracked so that appropriate action plans could be taken to mitigate them. And really importantly, during that early phases of BOAC, Department of Buses was piloting onboard security cameras. And BOAC worked really closely with management in developing material that we disseminated to the workforce, which explained the program and the functionality of hardware so that the operators who were out on the buses would be receptive to the use of cameras on their buses. That was a major challenge because of the intrusion of privacy that was perceived as a result of that. BOAC was expanded in 2009 after the tragic death of a bus operator who was killed while on duty. And the role of BOAC really became much more results-oriented, and they became the champions for rolling out the bus barrier and the bus security camera program. As a result, we are on track to have all of our local service buses equipped with barriers by the middle of 2016. We have 2,200 plus buses with security cameras on them. We're no longer retrofitting existing buses. We're only bringing in all buses that are purchased are equipped with cameras. So by 2022, the entire fleet will be camera ready and camera equipped. In 2011, the BOAC committee facilitated the Transport Workers Assault Conference in Brooklyn, which was hosted by New York City Transit along with the TWU and ATU. The highlight of the conference was a panel discussion on law enforcement perspective on transit assaults, with the district attorneys from all 5 boroughs serving as participants. And it was attended by representatives from both labor and management from properties throughout the East Coast, including SEPTA, WMATA, and some other larger properties. BOAC successfully advocated bringing the New York State Transit Watch program to New York City Transit and MTA Bus, and traveled as a group to Albany to lobby for passage of the Bus Operator Assault Bill. BOAC has also initiated an outreach program to New York's Police Department precinct leadership to focus awareness on high assault locations and to work with strategies with the local precincts to mitigate some assault concerns that they've had. Lastly, I'm working with the current BOAC membership on developing a near-miss reporting program which will allow us to capture onboard video of incidents which can be used to enhance our bus operator training program, while also giving us a greater insights into the tremendous challenges that our operators face every day. The success of BOAC as advocates for bus operator safety would not have been achieved without both labor and management's willingness to trust each other and to accept the fact that we share a common goal, bus operator safety. Thank you.
Andrew?
Do you have any indication or a sense of what percentage of assaults on bus drivers are when they're in the vehicle versus when they're at the end of a line, on a break, whatever?
I don't have that at the top of my head, but I can provide that to you. The majority of them, they're on the bus.
And the barriers will ostensibly fix that.
It helps it a lot, yes. There are several instances where we have had assaults on an operator that the severity of the assaults were significantly mitigated because of the existence of a barrier.
Thanks.
So that will lead us to Lori Ebbinghausen speaking about the confidential close call reporting system program at Long Island Railroad.
Good morning. At the Long Island Railroad, we've had a long-standing partnership between management and labor to promote the value of safety with our employees, our customers, and to serve our communities in our catchment area. What I want to focus on, which is something that Steve touched on, is a new venture for us, which is a formal confidential close call reporting system program. So why focus on close calls? For every one major event fatality, one can look back and see that there were probably 10 minor accidents or injuries, 30 that may have been property damage related leading up to that one major event, and another 1,000 or so that were precursors on the leading up to that. What we're focusing on is not just chipping away at the tip of the iceberg, but melting that iceberg from underneath so that we can prevent those major things from happening and going from a reactive risk management approach to a more proactive risk management approach. So when you look at the confidential close call reporting, it engages labor and management in a very different dynamic and a different relationship. It's voluntary, it's confidential, but more importantly, out of all of those bullets, it's a collaborative problem-solving model that focuses not on individuals, but really focuses on the problems and the systems that may be leading up to those events, that major event occurring. A key component of the confidential close call reporting system is the peer review team. And what's nice about the peer review team is that it engages our regulator, the FRA, it engages labor, and it engages management in this collaborative problem-solving process. All of the parties take their hats off as labor, management, and regulator and really focus on what's happening in the environment according to our employees and trying to come up with solutions for those issues. The reports themselves are funneled through NASA. NASA de-identifies, they take away the names of the employees, they take away details that may lead to identifying the employees so that the group can really focus on what the issues are and come up with some recommendations for corrective action. The corrective actions then are funneled through a senior support team for those actions that require a commitment of resources and attention. For the peer review team, we're one of the first properties in the country to actually engage all of our labor partners right from the beginning. So all 9 of our labor partners signed on to this program with us. And one of the things that we wanted to show you was that we actually had an implementing memorandum of understanding signing event, which is where we formally commit to engaging in this process.
This is an ambitious undertaking.
This is a great program for everybody. The carrier and the employees got together on this.
Program that's really designed to engage every level of employee in promoting safety at the Long Island Railroad.
If they make a mistake, they'll be able to report it without fear of discipline.
Essentially, it's C3RS, superscript 3 for the 3 C's.
Confidential close call reporting system, many folks call it C3RS.
And so this program has a way of giving people the protections they need, confidential protections they need, to report the things they see without fear of reprisals.
I'm proud for several different reasons. One, we all need to move the bar to get to safety. And it's real easy to accept the status quo and be reluctant to leave the status quo. And this is an agreement that leaves the status quo for all of us. It certainly was uncomfortable for all of us to get there, yet we did it.
Everybody that came to the signing, all the general chairman and the labor, got together with management for the safety of not only the riding public, but for the membership, the employees. And I think the key to the whole program is going to be communication. I think we're going to get off to a great start as long as we continue to communicate and make sure that everybody knows that safety is and always will be priority number 1. And we've taken a huge step in that direction, and everybody is on the same page here, that we are going to move in a direction that's going to put us way above everybody else in the safety end.
We know that there are events that sometimes occur that could lead up to that big event. And what this program is really designed to do is to search out what those smaller events are, to see if we can get from our employees suggestions for how to improve the safety of amongst their fellow employees, particular work locations. The idea is that the more that we know, the better position that we'll be in to ensure the safety of our employees, our customers, and the communities that we serve.
Would be really beneficial for the operators daily. They have to make hundreds and hundreds of quick decisions, and always with the fear that they'll be disciplined. They'll be more comfortable in making moves, and if they make a mistake, they'll be able to report it without fear of discipline, and hopefully they'll come up with ways to improve the system to reduce those errors.
We have guys that work in shops, heavy equipment. The reason we signed on to this is we think it's a great deal between the employees and the carrier. This is something that I think will move us on into the future and bring bigger and better things to the Long Island Railroad.
It's not only just important for the employee themselves, but you also have to think about your staff that works with you.
your peers, your friend, your buddy, your family. At the end of the day, we want everybody to come into work, do your job safely, be effective, be part of a good, productive group so we can provide great service to our customers. But we also want you to go home safe and sound to come back.
So that video really captures the essence of what the confidential close call reporting system program is all about. At the Long Island Railroad, we embarked on this March 29th. Our goal is to be system-wide by March of next year, and toward that goal, you'll see that our implementation strategy, every 3 months we expand to a new location, new shop and yard area, to help to develop and foster that relationship to get to the events and get to the corrective actions. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Neil?
Ms. Ebenhausen, thank you. I'm excited to hear what you're doing. It's fantastic. Your representation of the iceberg, I think, is a very important concept for us to all to think about. And I'm looking forward to hearing what we learn. I want to tie this to the earlier discussion of metrics. How will we know it's working? What metrics do we imagine putting into place tied to the reporting system so we do have a way of gauging whether it's working?
I know the peer review team is considering metrics with every readiness for the next expansion. So there are things like the volume of the reports that they're receiving, the quality of the reports they're seeing, the number of corrective actions that are able to be generated, but not only generated, then successfully implemented and monitored for impact. So those would be, I guess, the 4 metrics that I would anticipate that we'd continue to use and then formalize and focus on as we move forward.
If you apply system safety principles to the analysis of data and you're looking at severity of either end result incidents that occur or near misses and frequency of occurrence, those would be measures as well. I mean, to say that we need to shrink the iceberg is accurate, but if you shrink that part of the iceberg where it's the lower severity incidents and you still have the higher severity incidents out there, you haven't reached it. And there are some near miss incidents where people just, it catches their breath and they go, wow. There, but for the sake of one action, one person, or one thing, we avoided a catastrophic incident. And so those, I'm sure, will be part of the dialogue.
Okay. So we'll move on to Steve Chait from Metro North, and he'll discuss the safety meeting organizational structure at Metro North.
Good morning. My name is Stephen Chait. I'll be reporting on the safety meeting organization for Metro North Railroad. Safety meeting organization is a pyramid of teams which starts at the local level within the districts. The structure is designed to promote team building and create an ownership of safety. Employees can address and seek to resolve safety concerns within the locality. Larger unresolved safety concerns are funneled upward, and communication and resources are funneled down. Local safety teams consist of primarily represented employees and are chaired by management. They meet once or twice a month depending on the size of the location. These local teams are at the base of the structure and provide an opportunity for free discussion. Supervisors and employees are reminded that they are responsible for their own safety. The Office of System Safety provides the local teams their incident injury records so that they may identify root causes and possible mitigations. The team documents all open items which are then tracked through closure. Lessons learned or unresolved items from the local teams are addressed at the district. This is a mixed group of representative management employees which meets at least once a month. The district reviews the district safety plan, district incident injury, trends, capital and operating projects, and shares information gained from within the locals. At the top of the pyramid is the cooperative and executive leadership. Although separate meetings, the steering and senior team assist cultivating safety culture through policy changes, communication, and identifying either monetary or other needed resources. These teams are advised on accomplishments and on oversee of the entire program. Thank you.
So we'll ask Pashko Kamaj from Bridges and Tunnels to discuss the safety task force at Bridges and Tunnels.
Good morning, everybody. Today I will talk to you briefly about one of the things that we do at Bridges and Tunnels in order to advance our safety program and our safety awareness in our agency. A safety task force, which was created back in 2013 by then our president, Jim Ferrara, was initiated and comprised by labor and management representatives. Members of our three main unions, SOBA, BTO, BA, and Local 1931 comprise this group. In addition, Chief of Staff, Director of Maintenance, Location Director Managers, and Managers of Safety are part of this group. In addition to this, our Safety and Health Department, in its decentralized management approach, has a member, permanent member at each of our facilities, and they also provide significant input in this task force. So what is a task force? Safety task force. It is a partnership between labor and management, and it's an independent committee which meets on monthly basis, on rotating basis from facility to facilities. As you know, we have 9 facilities, 7 bridges and 2 tunnels, and meetings are held on monthly basis, on rotating basis. So at least one of the facilities gets to be seen once a year. What do? We review safety concerns and speak with workers, speak about their concerns, safety issues, discuss new ideas to improve safety and prevent accidents, review accidents, near misses, and accident prevention measures, discuss new projects. As you know, we have many projects ongoing, and we want everybody to be informed and also aware of their ongoing projects. So in essence, we strive to promote safety awareness, collaboration, and safety issues between labor and management. So the importance of the task force is that we memorialize all the findings in a memo, which is in a manual, which is kept at each facility. Reports are written and distributed among all the players that we mentioned before. They're written and kept at each facility. Recommendations are in writing and by photos. So we show, a lot of times we'll have a before and after, where we see a problem before and then how it was resolved after. Results are all distributed among all of our workforce at each facility. Lastly, the task force findings are incorporated in our bridges and tunnels in-house OSHA training, which is a robust training program offered by our OSHA-trained staff in our office, in our Safety and Health office. And OSHA 10 is offered for our administrative employees, and OSHA 30 for our engineering department. So all of this is done in order to advance our delivery of service in an efficient and in a safe manner. Thank you.
Let me put to you a hypothetical and see if I can understand where you're going. There is a 5-car automobile accident coming out of a toll booth on the Verrazano Bridge or wherever, all right? Now, do you, at that point, have either a police or other safety examination to determine why did that happen? Where did it go? Is that what you photograph? Is that what you document?
Every incident that happens on our bridges or on our facilities is documented. We have our bridge and tunnel officers who directly are involved in investigating the cause first, and then learning from the accident, and then memorialize it in a way that.
All right. Now you have photographed it. You have come to a conclusion. Do you make that information available to the staff that operates the bridge and those who control it?
Absolutely.
How do you do that?
Well, in a way, we have just created something we call a manual, which for every facility, every findings that we have during an accident or investigation, it's posted at the manual. It's also discussed during these safety meetings or these safety conferences that we have at each facility.
Have you given some thought to the possibility of trying to incorporate some of the lessons learned by the police department on Comcast in terms of having periodic senior staff meetings that go through specific cases and say exactly what has happened and what you have found?
I think you mean ComStat, right?
You're right.
Okay.
We do collaborate with the police department as well as any local agencies such as fire department on many issues, but especially when it comes to investigating accidents, we definitely collaborate with them on all levels.
The key is not only just learning it, but getting the information out and then implementing the safety procedures. Is that something you're trying to do?
That is our goal.
Then I congratulate you.
Thank you so much.
Any further comments of bridges and tunnels? If not, move on.
Okay. We'll move on to contractor safety oversight, and We'll ask Peter Koner to start with the discussion on MTA Capital Construction and New York City Transit CPM contractor oversight.
Good morning. As Ann said, I will be presenting on behalf of both CPM and MTA Capital Construction. Jim Meritz will comment on CPM questions if you have any. The contractor safety management is owned by the contractor. What both CPM and MTA provide is a compliance monitoring. And the compliance monitoring is comprised of elements such as review of safety programs, HASP, APP, HSAP. These are the ones that the contractor submits for approval for each contract. Safe work plans, review, approvals, 6 weeks look ahead, which means planning and getting readiness for construction activities ahead. Readiness review meetings which address the contractor's readiness to execute operations. Hazard lag review reports, checklist development, and job progress meeting participation. The monitoring consists of daily walkthroughs, site inspections that are done jointly with the contractor and the CCM, or Construction Safety Management. Daily reports, both contractor and safety representatives of the CM's offices. Daily hazard rack entries, bi-weekly joint hazard assessment, which is an audit function. Monthly walkthroughs with the executives of the program. Monthly reports that go to the CM and to the project management. Monthly program safety meetings that bring in everybody, including the project managers, to discuss activities, incidents, highlights, best work practices, etc. for the months. Quarterly assessments that essentially evaluate the contractor's performance, and finally ACE evaluations that provide a evaluation that goes and enables the contractor to bid on the next contract for the MTA. The contractor safety oversight elements are job hazard assessment results that are reviewed by the CM with the contractor, monthly safety status report, again reviewed with the CM and the contractor, development mitigation, a leading indicator strategy. I mean, what we really are reporting to date are the lagging indicators. That's an event in the past. Our focus now is to address the leading indicators, that is the prevention strategy, being proactive to address the things that can prevent from incidents happening. And this may be changing. And what we have reports that highlight 3 to 4 top lagging indicators for the months, and we demand that the contractor devises a mitigation strategy to address it. Month-to-month performance measure reports. We issue month-to-month reports that give them an interim report as to how they perform and what shortages are to the objectives. Quarterly assessments that are reviewed with the CM and the contractor, and obviously the ACE evaluation reports that comprise the ACE. Both agencies, representative CPM and CC, are also concerned with public and customer safety. And that includes DOT compliance, the signage, signal striping on streets, work zone security, and prevention of incidents, not only to workers but to the public, pedestrian crossings, street sidewalk and crosswalk maintenance, slip, trip, fall, lighting, snow and ice removal on sidewalks and crosswalks, application of pedestrian managers in impacted areas where the construction has truly impacted the traffic of pedestrians, traffic enforcement agents. That's an endeavor that we have with the city and New York Police Department, city agency coordination initiatives that has been a very big, that had a very big impact on especially on 2nd Avenue, where we enlisted the help of sanitation, community police agencies, and DOB and DOT, compliance and inspection reports that go out weekly and monthly. Finally, we have partnered with the community and installed a community information center on 2nd Avenue. We have learned that education of the public has helped us in their acceptance of our presence on 2nd Avenue. And I'm happy to report that year-to-date we had over 14,000 people since 2013 visit the 2nd Avenue subway, community information center. In closing, I'd like to say that between CPM and capital construction, there's 7.5 million hours annually that are being put in, which represents almost 4,000 workers. And I would venture to say that we are probably one of the largest trade union employers in the city. And I believe that the program and the oversight that we put out produces very good results, as we are on 12 months rolling basis for this year below the labor statistics standards for lost time and recordable incidents. Thank you.
So we'll move on to ask Pashko Kamaj to come back and speak about the Construction Safety Council at Bridges and Tunnels.
Hello again. In addition to our robust construction standards and procedures which have built-in safety and health protocols which are reviewed and approved by various departments within our agency and within our different departments, we've established recently a forum called Safety Construction Council, which is a forum across many disciplines to discuss safety and health, to discuss fire prevention at our construction facilities, construction projects, and to address any safety concerns during these delivery of these services. The goal of the Safety Construction Council is to foster and recognize the safety excellence at various construction projects and to learn from anything that we see and if we can make it better. To learn from any near misses, to learn from anything that was shown to be a problematic issue and to become better at what we do. The first meeting was held just a couple of weeks ago on October 16th in 2015, and it was a successful collaboration of many parties, again to ensure safe and efficient delivery of services for our agency. The Safety Council, Construction Council is supported by our president, by various departments, by the various department heads, engineering and construction, safety and health, and participants in this council are some of our major contractors and vendors who come in an open forum, we discuss issues, problems, and again, the one and only goal is to see if we can improve our safety to get a better delivery of services in a safe and an efficient manner. Thank you.
Finally, we'll move on to Chris D'Antonio from MTA Risk, and he'll be giving you an overview of the OSIP program.
Thank you. Good morning. Chris D'Antonio with MTA Risk and Insurance Management. MTA has been sponsoring owner-controlled insurance programs for many years. For those of you who may not be familiar with the concept, owner-controlled insurance is a methodology by which we insure all contractors and their subcontractors on a capital construction job under one insurance program. Some may know it as wrap-up insurance because we wrap all those contractors under one blanket of coverage. There's some advantages to OSIP, but today I'm going to speak primarily about the safety advantages of OSIP. And the main advantage we have here is that we have a loss-sensitive program, which means if we have fewer losses, our insurance costs are reduced. By having that incentive to us, we provide additional safety services in support of the other agency safety initiatives. And we get to promote uniform standards across agencies, as well as enhanced approaches that go more toward a consultative approach than to a enforcement of rules approach. And that consultative model has come down to this formula that we presently use. We visit each contract site 2 times per week. You may ask, why 2? We found that if you visit a site every day, the contractor just looks to you for what they need to do to comply with safety. But if we go once a week, once a month, they get very predictive at when we're going to show up and become safe just for that day. So we found that 2 days a week is about the right mix that keeps the contractor in charge of their own safety, but on their toes in participating in the program. Of course, we like to participate in progress meetings where we can understand upcoming work activities and get access to the highest levels of management from both the contractor and the agency. We produce written reports with photographs. These photographs show the safety concerns, both positive and negative, so that the contractor is aware of what we're talking about and has a written record of what we see. We also like to emphasize positive as well as negative. We in the safety industry have a very bad reputation of being the people who tell you what's wrong every day, what you can do to be better. But we'd like to also work with them, contractors, to reinforce those positive behaviors that they witness on the jobs. We also look to have a closing conference with the resident engineer of the construction team so that our agency representative is aware of what we've done. And this process has been quite successful over the years. We began back in '99 with the rolling wraps on the capital programs. And back then we were looking at approximately 175 accidents per 100 million constructed under capital construction. And over the years we've reduced that number down to approximately 43. So we've seen a dramatic reduction in the cost of both the insurance and the claims that come out of this program, as well as enhancing the protection of the public and our riders. Thank you.
Mr. Merdler?
Let me see if I can understand what you've just said. You go to the sites, you do a wrap-up insurance for all of the subs, correct?
General contractor and subcontractors, yes.
Okay. And then you go to the sites and see if there are problems, potential or actual, correct?
Yes.
And then you document what you perceive on that occasion, correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, what do you do in terms of communicating that information to the contractor or sub?
Typically, our visits are conducted with the contractor's on-site safety engineer. By contract, every contractor must have a safety engineer. So we conduct our survey with that person. So the contractor's personnel is with us and present. We also invite the resident engineer, our representative, to join us.
Okay. And do you document that you've communicated that information to them?
Yes.
And if you come back a week later and you see the problem, what do you do then?
Well, we track the recommendations we submit. They're dated and timed, so we know when we submitted them, and we track the length of time they stay open. If a recommendation isn't corrected within the next visit, which is typically 48 to 72 hours, we will then escalate the discussion to the resident engineer. And if those recommendations remain open even longer, that's something that might get escalated to the progress meeting where our larger executive force is available.
I'm less interested in the paper trail, and I'm less interested in the communication to follow up as in terms of a sense on the part of the contractor or the subcontractor that in the event they do not comply, there are consequences. What is that? What have you done to do that?
Okay, there's a number of consequences built into our contracts. First and foremost, we have the ability to direct if the contractor fails to comply, we can hold a safety stand down, whereby we stop the work activities for a certain period of time and hold a safety discussion about the topic. We can hold safety stand downs. We can actually, if push comes to shove, we can have the hazard abated by another contractor and back charged to the contractor, as well as other.
I have a problem with that. When you do the safety stand down at, let's say, hypothetically, the Henry Hudson Bridge, the people who are driving across that bridge ain't getting over there very fast, are they?
That can be an issue.
All right. So, do you have a provision in your contracts and your subcontracts that provides that through some arbitrable method you could assess a penalty for persistent failure to attend to safety requirements?
Those programs exist, but they exist agency by agency. I'm primarily focused on an insurance program.
Are you reinsured?
Yes.
So you have coverage beyond what you have, right?
Yes.
But you do not police to determine whether or not any consequences in fact do occur. Is that correct?
We do work in conjunction with the agency representatives on site to address these hazards and assess consequences.
Respectfully, I suggest that that's a gap that somebody ought to look at.
Well, I got to weigh in here because I wear a number of hats. One's a CEO, one's chairman, but also a long history in safety, because in 1982 I came to be the assistant to the person that was running system safety at the time. The job Cheryl Kennedy's here. OSIP is very important. Risk assessment is very important, but there are distinct differences between how you manage a risk assessment from hazard insurance standpoint versus a system safety program. Each one of these individuals, through their staff or the CEO, have the ability and authority to shut down a job site for an unsafe condition. If that means there's an impact to service, that decision is taken. That issue was changed in New York City Transit in 1984 when David Gunn told me I had that authority. So that was a paradigm shift in terms of impact to service, impact to a construction site, internal or external. And we need to separate the two, because if we flinch with respect to impacts to customers in terms of service, and we don't take that issue lightly, we do not take that issue lightly, because to just arbitrarily shut down and create crowding conditions is something we don't want to do either. But we do make a distinct difference between that which is a risk assessment from an insurance standpoint versus that which is a safety assessment in terms of unsafe conditions.
I do not quarrel with that one iota. My point was somewhat different, and maybe I did not articulate it clearly. My point was that if you find a persistent violator of safety standards, do you have in your contracts a mechanism, and do you enforce that mechanism so that the contractor suffers an economic or other penalty? And I just wanted to know, A, does it exist, and B, is it enforced?
The answer to the first question is clearly yes. The answer to the second question is subject to interpretation. In one of the presentations, they talked about ACE evaluations. We have been continually constructively criticized by third parties that we do not effectively utilize ACE evaluations, whether it be for safety issues, conformance with MWDBE goals, or a variety of different issues. The effectiveness of that clause, I totally agree with you, is based on your level of enforcement. And I mean, I've used this phrase in discussions with staff, and I got to come back to that. The British term, hanging somebody from a yardarm, was for a reason. So you made an example of somebody. And every once in a while, you may have to do that. And we recognize that. The structure that you see today in terms of presentations may look orchestrated or scripted. It may not. I don't know. But the benefit of a safety committee now in the organization and the lead up, because we had a pre-meeting. And the pre-meeting, the agency heads attended, I attended, and there was a sharing of, and actually there's meetings before that that the safety representatives have. And there's a sharing of information in terms of how they're using the tools they have and other people can utilize. So the awareness of safety is at even higher levels than what it was before, well beyond the safety representatives in the organization, and that's healthy. The other thing that's healthy, if you go back 30 years, and I don't smile because it's funny, I just smile because it's a sense of accomplishment. It took us 5 or 6 years before people realized we were removing graffiti from the system, but that's what happens because it happens over time. 30 years ago, if you had a labor management safety meeting, and I think Vinny would attest to this, generally that was the venue where every bitter dispute between labor and management was meted out. The management used it in a punitive way to discipline employees. Labor used it in a way to get management's attention because they'd shut the place down if conditions required that. But we've come to a totally different place where the representatives of labor and management work jointly together to identify hazards and get to a different level. And we need to be able to continue to do that. But your point's well taken, Chuck. It's just that we do need to make that distinction. And the last comment I want to make is there's going to be a discussion later today at the board meeting about the capital program. And we're going to talk about, hopefully we get board approval on a plan to resubmit to the capital program review board. And you'll hear me use language about the governor wanting us to deliver the program faster, cheaper, and better. And one of the ways we can certainly deliver it probably better, faster, and cheaper also aligns itself with safety goals we may have. Because there's been a reluctance on our part sometimes to do out-of-phase closures or extended closures to get work done. But to do work in a station, for example, at New York City Transit, where you're closing it down at night, opening up every morning, or closing part of the station and subjecting the customers to, safety hazards that you would rather not, or controlled mitigated safety hazards and extend the work, is maybe not the best way to do the business. But that'll be part of a longer discussion. Sir?
Forgive me, let me just make a point. I learned it as chairman of the State Insurance Fund, so it's based on actual experience. A contractor and a subcontractor has, among his many areas of fear, the possibility that he is either not insurable or that his insurability requires a higher cost. And that's why OSIP provides you a tool that is quite different from all the other tools you have in your bag, and all of which are being used. But OSIP gives you the opportunity to turn to that contractor and to that subcontractor and say, we're going to file a report that says that you are a persistent violator of safety standards, and this will have an impact on your insurability. You watch them move.
Any further comments or discussions from anyone? Yes, Vinny?
So, obviously we've used the word labor management in the same sentence countless times today. And on behalf of labor, while I don't speak for every labor organization in the agency, I feel very confident to say that labor is incredibly appreciative that we are included on all of these various programs, whether it's confidential close call, various task force. Labor is welcomed, to be a part of it because, like you just mentioned, and it's a great point, Tom, those were the only settings where we get to scream and yell about stuff. And now when we can prioritize things specifically in certain categories, it's welcomed. I mean, it's very always easy to say, well, safety first, using it as leverage, and that's not what it is anymore. Because the labor unions want this system to be equally as safe as everybody in this room, and the front lines and the people that are working in the system usually are the ones at most risk, along with our customers, obviously. So with that said, I am very pleased that there is this inclusion and that representatives of labor are involved in groups and meetings that they've never been involved before. There's a but. If we're part of it, we want to see the things implemented that we learn from these programs. When we do safety sand downs and management comes out in the field and mixes it up with the rank and file, and somebody comes to the forefront with a concern or a complaint, that person, and somebody used it in the presentation, the trust level, that person is going to want to see that little thing fixed. Because if that one little spotlight in the corner of that yard doesn't get replaced, it all feels as though things fall on deaf ears. So while all of these programs are new and welcomed, and this committee is new and needed and welcomed, truly in the coming months and possibly year and moving forward, what we learn from it and what we do with it is going to be the key. Because the trust level from our workforce is leaning in the right direction, where I'm not going to get in trouble for that. It doesn't always have to be saying something without the fear of retaliation, but that is a culture that was here for quite some time. We're moving away from it, and the only way that it works is if we're heard.
John, you had a question?
Thank you, Tom. I just have a question with respect to, I guess, both Metro North and the LIRR's speed compliance program. And I was just curious if there's such a concept as going too slow, if that's recorded, or if we're just focusing on speed in excess of the optimal.
I'll start it, but I'll let Joe and Pat and the safety officials from the railroads talk. There's certainly a focus on people going too fast. You didn't raise that. When it comes to schedule adherence,
That's always written in the.
yeah, but when it comes to schedule adherence, because When you lay out a schedule for a trip of a train from one terminal to another, you are assessing its running time between stops, its dwell time at stations, et cetera. And you're constantly monitoring that to see that it is accurate. When you have outliers, somebody who is not meeting the schedule, not close to meeting the schedule, you generally look at it with supervision to see if it's some unique characteristic that that train sees in terms of inordinate dwell time at a station, or like in the case of the Long Island Railroad, you got 7 branches feeding like a main line, with the slots being, perfectly meeting. And then you do further analysis if you have somebody that, for lack of a better phrase, is dragging the line. And then you take an action. But it's generally not on a case-by-case, and it's generally on a case-by-case basis when you get to that level of analysis, not that you're standing over somebody's shoulder and making sure they're riding the curves hot, so to speak. There is a focus on schedule adherence, there has to be, but not at the expense of safety. But yeah, Joe, Pat, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'll add from the standpoint that, John, one of the things that we've been doing is, and you'll see it even between last month and this month, because it was one of the questions, we're pulling the records, okay? And what we've got is and it goes to Neil's point too, in terms of, are you seeing a payback on what you're following through on? And not only are we seeing the compliance that's going on, but we're seeing that people that have made a mistake have called that into the close call reporting system. So you get a very good feel for whether or not that is being adhered to. The other part, and I think it goes to what you were already commenting on to me today in terms of a train that's coming in late. Today, for example, because we already had reports of low adhesion, we turned around and told our engineers to not go aggressively. We actually have an alert we put out that says do not exceed 30 miles an hour going in on a platform. So, you're going to get a day like today where we will get a preponderance of the trains because of the conditions that are out there, but it's a safe response. So from the standpoint that I want to make it clear that in the very beginning, there was such a focus on the on-time performance that anybody that ran slow was brought in on an investigation to go and say, where did you lose your time and how did it happen? What we have right now is a much more workable schedule that we had to adjust to, and we now go and get to evaluate. And I'm going to be candid, 9 times out of 10 what we're looking for is the people that have gone too fast, because that's where your accidents are going to take place. In terms of people going too slow, you're going to find that out very quickly because our schedules are so concise that you lose your, and Tom kind of referred to it, you lose your slot to go and get in, and then we have a further impact that goes on. So that becomes a review that goes back to our road foreman and everybody else on it when that has happened. So it does get drawn out, but not to the level that you would turn and say, are we pulling it to go and look for the people that are going slow? You find out about the slow because you'll get all the complaints. You'll get the people that are turning around that are talking about that their train was not on time and it did not get into the station on time.
No, I think it's been covered. This is a safety meeting. From a safety perspective, usually going too fast is our biggest concern. From an operation performance issue, the focus on somebody not being able to run according to their schedule is part of the operational performance monitoring. That's why these people didn't report on that, but that's another part of the business that we do every day, is trying to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure whatever's causing it, whether it's somebody operating too slow, or the schedule doesn't work, or the signal system has a problem, or what, an infrastructure issue. You're always looking for things operationally that cause you on a regular basis. I mean, you can look at the 750 trains that we run every day and figure out which ones are on time most of the time and which ones aren't. And then you need, for those that aren't, you need to sort of devise and figure out why aren't they running on schedule. And that's a different analysis that you undertake. And, there can be a multitude of reasons. I just went through some of them, but you need to look through and do that evaluation and figure that out to try and fix the issue that's causing you that problem.
A year ago, Metro North's on-time performance by line was in a far different place than what it is today. There was a clamor of concern by a number of people outside the agency and outside the board focusing on on-time performance. And Joe and his team basically said, we will focus on that which is important, the underpinnings, deliver good service, reliability, safety, et cetera, and the on-time performance will follow because of the other measures, and that's where they've gotten to. But it's more than just a locomotive engineer or train operator operating at the extremes, meaning just below the maximum speed limit. it's good track conditions, it's no slow speed orders, it's a whole host of things, and you have to have a holistic solution to it. My last comment before we break is that we've heard some heartening news. The House has reached agreement on a bill that includes a measure to extend the deadline for positive train control 3 years to December 31st, 2018. If you want to pray, if you want to do whatever you want to do to get the Senate to the same place, we'll be happy. But that doesn't mean we've let up on our efforts in the event that that does not happen, and we have to make a decision as to what we do on January 1st, 2016, which includes also some information for board members in terms of what their responsibilities would be. But right now, there appears to be a solution on the House side, and hopefully the Senate will follow. And we've got a senator that is concerned with one of our systems here in the area, and we need to be able to convince him, hopefully, that we need to get an extension. Nothing further. I'd like in the motion to adjourn. Second, all in favor? Aye. Thank you, sir, and everybody.